All right, it is Thursday morning. Can you believe it, Brenden? September 4th.
It's bananas.
It's bananas and Hewlett and Dunn. Great things happening for everybody. Rob Browne in Memphis, Brenden Martin in Ocala, Florida. By the way, I liked Nick Roush yesterday, Kentucky Sports Radio, wearing a derby hat, talking UK football and basketball. He's going to be fun to have on. Dedicated UK guy. Lot to cover today. First, take a picture with your phone of the QR code.
Yeah.
Real important. Brenden, tell them why.
Well, I'll tell you what. It's not really, if you're watching on a desktop or a laptop, you can take a picture with your phone. If you're watching on your phone, screen grab it. You got a screen grab, press the pinchy two things together, click like that, and you get to do a screen grab. It will also go to your QR reader in your phone if you have an iPhone, and bang, you'll take you right to our website. But it's easy enough anyways, because all you have to look for is Sidelines_Live on YouTube. You can just Google that. It will come up there. And also, more importantly these days, just follow us on X, because that's easy. And if you're not on X, you're kind of missing out where all the things are going down. Yeah. And we are at Sidelines_Live there too, at our new Twitter X Twix home. So there it is. That's easy to go.
Sidelines_Live.
And if you're on Facebook, I mean, go ahead and find it's Sidelines with Rob Browne. So, and you know what? Rob Browne's all over this thing because he's the architect of this entire show. Therefore, he's the host with the most.
It's a team effort. I can tell you that. Like Dad always said, you can't build a 100-story building without architects and engineers. And so I'll be the architect and sponsors, which we love. And we're working on some huge sponsors and great guests. And I'm going to tell you something. Max Howell found us on Facebook. Coach Howell watches every day down in Fulton, Mississippi.
I'll make a thing for Facebook, a little QR thing for them.
Yeah, and
Good morning,
it's
gentlemen. How
really
are
cool,
you?
guys. How are you? Matt,
morning.
You know, John Hartwell, I put on there on the text this morning, on the Gulf Coast, man. That could be L.A., but it ain't the Gulf Coast in Louisiana because they ain't got no beaches in Louisiana. But a lot to cover. I want to say this to Matt Dean. Matt has been talking all summer about Dante Moore, the Oregon quarterback who sat behind and learned and worked. He didn't just sit. Dante Moore sat behind Dylan Gabriel last year at Oregon. Man, the reviews are really strong on him. I know they didn't play the strongest opponent in their first game, but the Ducks are really good. That's a powerful brand. They're doing some great things out there. John, you look relaxed. You look like you could perhaps be the world's second most interesting man now behind Frank Duffy, who might be in Tuscany, which is north of Grenada, which is just south of Memphis. But let's get started. And I'm going to start with John and then bounce it back and forth with you and Matt. And then Gary Harris will be on about 1:30. John, your takeaways from the first weekend. We were in Atlanta watching a lot of football. It's the kryptonite to NIL and the portal is playing the damn games. As the Gators say, spot the damn ball. I love it.
Yeah, it really does. You know, I'll have to be the first to admit I was wrong on a couple of games, big time. Credit Mike Norvell and the Florida State Seminoles. I know Brenden doesn't want to hear that much, but man, they took Alabama to the woodshed. It was, and needless to say, the honeymoon is over now in the Kalen DeBoer era. Not that it wasn't over somewhat last year, but man, that was you don't see Alabama's teams get physically beat on the line of scrimmage on both sides like that. So hats off to Florida State. Auburn was very impressive. I will earmark two quarterbacks, Jackson Arnold and Garrett Nussmeier, two Tigers that led their teams to strong road victories. And, those teams both serve notice in the SEC this week, but lots of great play. Hey, and I know this is a little outside our SEC footprint, but speaking of getting taken to the woodshed, Bill Belichick and his college debut for the Heels, and you think about the money they have pumped into that program from an NIL standpoint, from a paying Belichick and his son. By the way, some guys can pull off the man bun. His son with the man bun, that's just not a pretty sight.
No, it looked like it was awful. I mean, it couldn't have gone any worse. And then she was on the sidelines saying something to him. Wow, I digress. Matt Dean.
Hey, one other point there. I don't know if y'all saw this, but he and his girlfriend have trademarked several items now, including the term gold digger. You know, those sales may plummet after this past week.
Yeah, and it was just it was awful watching that. And you know, Sonny Dykes has just got to be just like, hey, I took the second winningest coach in the NFL to the woodshed at Kenan Stadium in the Pines. Matt Dean, you watched a lot of TV. The neighbors, you told me, had the blinds pulled up all weekend. So being that cable's expensive, you watched a lot of football. What were your takeaways? And did the SEC at 14-2 say anything to you about, hey, we're not giving up, we're still number one?
Good to be back, guys. My first take is LSU may have a championship level defense if they stay healthy. You saw Harold Perkins Jr. fly out there. I mean, he was everywhere. To go to Clemson, to hold that offense to 10 points. You know, we were talking about Cade for weeks here when we mentioned this game, and John's right. Garrett Nussmeier was terrific. On the flip side, I know everyone was shocked with Alabama. But the Texas game, I'm not as concerned, and I'll tell you why. Texas defensively held Ohio State to 203 yards total offense on their field. For the second consecutive time playing them, Jeremiah Smith, who a lot of people believe is one of the best football players in the country, was not a factor.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Arch experienced some growing pains, and I think, Rob, I told you on the phone this weekend, I think it's almost like a Tim Tebow moment where I think Arch, when Tebow lost to Ole Miss that one time, and I know it's different because it was a little bit later in his career, he came back and told everyone in the Tebow style how he was not going to let this team lose the rest of the year.
Yeah.
I think Arch will learn from this. I think they'll get better. Now, but here's a couple games that are interesting. Texas has a loss. They still got to go at Florida, at Georgia, and a lot of other games in between.
Yeah.
I'm telling you guys, the question I have, does Texas have the ability with this committee? And we had a great conversation a couple of weeks ago. Does a 9-3 SEC team get in this year? Because, first of all, you have to have the guts to go play that game, which they did. And I don't care what you say about Ohio State. They're returning national champions. And Caleb Downs is an unreal defensive player.
Yeah.
So my take is I think LSU's got a championship level defense. I think Texas is going to get better. And I think Alabama right now looks like an 8-9 win football team to me at best.
Well, the lack of effort, lack of motivation that I saw from Alabama didn't happen just overnight. That's been developing. I said it last year when you had, the practices are so much more fun. They've got music blaring, the ice cream trucks out there, juggling bears, face painting. They brought in Roll Tide Willie, this guy that I guess I don't know where he's from, somewhere in Northwest Alabama, I'm going to guess. I don't know, but I think he's from somewhere.
I told you it was like Rocky 3.
Yeah. Well, what I said was
when he came in there and there was all the fanfare going on. Was that 3 where he fought Apollo? Is that 3? I think that
was 3 or 4. I think there was a 4. There's only 3. Yeah.
I digress. Sorry. But I said that back then. I said this is too hot shot. I said this is too much. Hey, Matt Dean, push your mic forward just a little bit so you don't I don't hear your
chin rubbing. There you go.
No, push it like tilt it.
Hey, Matt.
It up.
Perfect. There you go. Thank you.
But let me say this real quick. I last year, Brenden and I both said it. It's that I told every Alabama friend I got a lot of them. I said, it's all spits and giggles with all that stuff, the clowns, the ice cream truck, the music. Oh, it's fun until they lose a game. And that's going to be exactly why they lost, because they're not disciplined. They're not as hardcore. And I'm going to tell you something.
Lane Kiffin better be where.
Well, I think Kiffin loves Ole Miss, but when you
I think he does too, but you got to win.
Yeah, got to win. But I just think you got to be careful. NIL is part of this. You're paying these kids all this money. And it wasn't like the last 3 years of Nick Saban. They were winning national championships. They didn't win. The last one was in 2020 in the virus. But I'm just saying, a culture is hard-nosed discipline. And when the players are giggling and laughing and stuff after a loss, I mean, I want guys that are distraught after a loss, in the locker room, and then get over it when you walk out. But I'm just saying, I look around college football. Texas, they ain't going anywhere. Defense travels. That's why I thought they would win. But the offense never could get going. You got to credit Ohio State, John.
Yeah, you do that, and that was a heck of a football game. But like Matt said, a learning moment for Arch Manning, just like you figured he would with his lineage of his family. He handled the post game press conference very well. He said, "Hey, that's back on me. I'm QB1. That's back on me." Hey, I don't mean to throw a second arrow at Brenden and the Gators, but I do have to throw in one trivia question here. So Matt talked about the Tim Tebow moment when Ole Miss won in the swamp, and I was fortunate enough to be at Ole Miss at that time and in the swamp that day. And I'll give you guys a little tip on this trivia question. So Florida scored a touchdown late, and Ole Miss blocked the extra point to win by 1. Can anybody name the former Ole Miss Rebel, obviously, Dallas Cowboy, and WWE wrestler that blocked the extra point? And Briarcrest High School graduate.
Greg Hardy.
Bingo. That's the winner.
I was there. I still wouldn't have got it.
Yeah. What's cool?
I was on the sideline watching it happen. I still wouldn't have gotten that right.
And that was September 30th, 2008. I was at Rhodes College for the fall fair they have over there, Matt, some kind of a fall festival. Something was going on. They had it at Evergreen Presbyterian. Maybe it wasn't, but it was right across the street from Rhodes. We were watching that game on the TV, and it was like, oh, my goodness.
Yeah, I was watching it from the sideline, pooping my pants.
Yeah, that was an insane game. But you know what? Alabama, we've all seen teams lose the first game and bounce back. And I'm looking forward to having Gary.
I think Texas
Harris.
is going to be fine.
Yeah, yes. I do too.
I think it was a good loss early. It was great. They're a great team. You don't have a lot of bad locker room there. Like you just go in, and then you got such a already experienced sounding QB1 in there. Like I think they're going to be fine. There's no way they're not going to be fine. I think if you're going to lose early.
Yeah. Well, the woman advice, Audrey, my wife, said, Arch has been programmed since childhood for this. He'll talk to his grandfather, who Audrey was in tears watching the Book of Manning. She just loves Archie. She loves him, and said he'll go back. They'll have a talk, and he'll be level-headed. I'm with Brenden. Brenden has seen so many. We all have, but Matt, there's just the people are prone to go negative at the first clap of thunder, aren't they?
They are, and Brendan's right. I mean, Texas is fine because they played the defending national champion on the road and still had the ball in the last drive, a chance to, if they advance and score, win the football game. Alabama just shocked everyone. It shocked us with the effort level. It shocked me. The first drive, if you remember, they marched down and scored. They're up 7-0, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the game, Florida State kind of controlled. And I'll give Castellanos, that quarterback, a lot of credit. Dual threat guys early in the season are always problematic. And Rob, I want to mention another team and another quarterback, and we're going to know a lot more about it Saturday night, but I thought Oklahoma looked really good too. I know your Auburn Tigers look really good, but I think Oklahoma-Michigan's a really good game on Saturday night, and I think that's my lock of the week, Oklahoma this week. It really is. I think they're going to have a great crowd, and I think they're going to get after the Wolverines.
Hey, can we answer a quick question for Neo around the table? Let's start with John Hartwell.
Yeah.
Do you think Saban will ever come back to college football?
Never say never. Did I think Bill Belichick would come to college football? No, I did not. I just don't think he does. I think he's comfortable on the air. I just don't see it. I've been proven wrong before, but I think he's comfortable on the air, and it's a different deal today. And I know he's been involved behind the scenes in trying to help some of the proposed legislation from a federal standpoint as it relates to NIL. But it's not for the faint of heart today.
Matt Dean.
I can't reveal my sources, but I'm with John, and I've also heard, Brenden, that he was the last loss. He really thought they could win that national championship, and then he just didn't like. He doesn't like the way things are going with the whole system, and I think he doesn't want to get back in what we have now. Does he want to work maybe behind the scenes to improve it, like John said? Yes. I just think he is tired of having a great year and someone walking in and say, I want a pay raise. That's not what he signed up for. That's my opinion,
Yeah.
I agree.
I think that's fair. I mean, look, I think it's fair to say that Saban had 3 seasons of not, very successful. He was already kind of feeling the push on this. I think whatever you want to say and however you want to say it, I think his way was and a lot of other coaches' way was sort of, it was done. So, with NIL and the new system. So I'm not knocking anybody. Everyone's playing. I'm just saying his way was done. And I think that's how he got his player. I mean, look, it's the same thing we're seeing now. Now we're just seeing it, right? We're seeing
Well, the closest
now everyone's
thing,
on the same page, but you do now see the discrepancy with how money and all this stuff affects everything. But no, I don't think he'll come back, just like I don't think Urban Meyer will come back. I answer these questions all the time, and I just think they can't be, and like Rob said, like they can't really coach that way anymore.
Well, the other problem, like I'm a huge Nick Saban fan just for what he's done on campus with the Catholic Church, the Saban Catholic Student Center. He guy's very generous, he and his wife. I mean, my goodness, I think close to $20 million they've put into local causes. But the thing, I think the kids do want to be coached because every kid I talk to at media days, they love tough coaching. But you know what? The one thing that you'll learn, kids want that bar to be raised. But I'm with John, never say never. But it wasn't like the last 3 years were bad. They were in the playoffs. But like Gary Harris said, when Alabama lost to Tennessee in 2022 after winning 15 straight over the Vols, Gary Harris and I had this discussion. I was in the park in the driveway at my mother-in-law's in Clarksville, Tennessee on a Sunday night. And he said, when Alabama loses, it's epic. People storm the field. Yeah. Women name their babies something about that day 9 months later. There's a lot of things. I think what's frustrating is as a kid, when I would ask for my allowance on Monday, my dad would say, boy, you think if we paid the workers on Monday, they'd be at the job on Friday? And I said, he goes, don't ask a stupid question. You're paying these kids in advance a lot of money. I think that's clouding the issue. If how upset are you if you're 18 or 19 and you can go look at your mobile banking app and see $750,000 cash available? That can make a lot of things. That is a problem. I don't care what anybody says. If you're born on third base and think you hit a triple, you got problems. All right. Looking at the rest of the SEC, I'll tell you, Ole Miss, they were dominant. Yeah. Dominant. Again, and I thought Georgia State would give them a chance. But Tennessee, John Hartwell, Joey Aguilar, man, they got an upgrade, man. They went from 2-wheel drive to a 4-wheel drive F-150 from Landers Ford with all the bells and whistles, AM, FM stereo, and heating and air.
Yeah, they really do. And I was talking to a friend of mine on the Tennessee athletic staff last night. One thing I really had not looked at, yes, they do have to go to the Swamp for a game. But if you look at their overall schedule, the schedule is very favorable to the Tennessee Volunteers. I mean, them winning 10, 11 games does not look like a major obstacle when you combine looking at how they came out of the gates in week 1 and then looking at their upcoming schedule, because it's, relatively speaking, and I know I could get an argument about this from anybody in the SEC, but relatively speaking, their schedule is not that difficult this year.
Well, they have the dreaded November 15th home game against New Mexico State. And as an Auburn man, my PTSD kicks in from when Diego Pavia came to Auburn and won 31-10. He goes to Vanderbilt. That guy, he's an 8th-year college player. Matt Dean, did you think I thought Syracuse, you know what? They lost a lot from last year. Tennessee played a full 60 on offense. Defense gave up too many points, though.
If I'm Josh Heupel, I'm elated. And I'll tell you, guys, I stayed up late and watched UCLA, Utah, because I just wanted to see Nico. Man, I tell you what, Utah they just punished them. It wasn't never a game. Nico he didn't look good at all, guys, and I don't want to ever put it on a young player, but I think, we call it in the business addition by subtraction. I think Tennessee got better and the locker room got better with their new quarterback. I really believe that. And I'll tell you this, furthermore, I just think it goes to show you that you mentioned, Lane Kiffin. Well, his latest quarterback's in the NFL. At some point, he's going to start for the New York Giants. But you know what? We all kind of thought that Austin Simmons is going to be the guy. Lane's great with offense. He's great with quarterbacks. He knows what he wants to run with his quarterbacks. And obviously, he loves dual-threat guys. Josh Heupel, he wasn't a dual as a player, he wasn't a dual-threat guy, but, man, he can coach anybody. And with that schedule, Rob, I think Tennessee is in a really good position. They play good defense there, too. They're not just one-sided. I think it was really encouraging, if you're a Vol fan, what you saw from your quarterback. And I don't care how much Syracuse lost either. I mean, Fran Brown's recruited his tail off since he's been there.
Yeah.
They're stacking classes. They're going to stack players. And they fought. They made it a respectable game until Tennessee in the second half kind of finished the job offensively. I'm really excited for the Vols because I think their quarterback room got a lot better.
I do too, and also the atmosphere. I don't think Nico was the problem, but his father was. But
Yeah.
it trickled into the locker room. All right, let's do this real fast. Drill down local, kind of. All right, we've talked to Alabama. We hadn't talked to Arkansas yet. What jumps out about Taylon Green in year 2 in the Bobby Petrino system? Bobby Petrino, say what you want about him. The guy is an elite offensive coach, John Hartwell.
Yeah, he is. And this weekend will be an interesting weekend because in Little Rock, you have the Red Wolves of Arkansas State going to play Big Brother, if you will, the Arkansas Razorbacks.
Yeah.
That should be interesting because those two have not gotten together that often. When you look at some of these games coming, you also have Louisiana Tech, playing LSU.
Yep.
That does not happen that often. So it'll be interesting to see some of these in-state games. I think South Alabama goes here in the next week or two to Auburn, maybe to play. Again, that game does not happen very often. So it'll be interesting to see some of these in-state games and see if the group of 5 school in each of those contests is maybe playing off some adrenaline and can make it a game going into the second half.
All right. Everybody watching on this show, and man, we're blessed. We got a lot of people watching live and later. Honk if you've ever gone under the Mobile Tunnel and honked your horn. I just think about that with South Alabama. We used to go down there to USA on Monday nights when I was on the karate club at Auburn. Mr. McCamey, 8th degree black belt from Okinawa in Shotokan. Yeah. And Mr. McCamey, there were 26 moves in a kata. They had a gym at USA, South Alabama. He would go, I'd get to like 25 out of 26. He'd go, Hana! And you'd fail. You'd go home the long ride back on a Monday night, get back about 2 a.m. Like, what happened? I didn't get the kata right. What? Anyway, the Jaguars are coming. Sam Pittman, he's one of the most lovable coaches. I know Arkansas fans, a lot of my friends say, I'm tired of a coach everybody loves. I want one everybody's scared of. But you know what? It's year 2 in the Petrino system. You heard what John said. Taylon Green is getting better every game in his system.
I'll give you a Matt Dean basketball analogy here, guys. If they can cut down the turnovers and if they can execute even better in the red zone, you don't want to play Arkansas if you're a defensive coordinator because Petrino's one of the best. You guys hit it on the head. And I think Taylon Green's one of those guys that gives people nightmares as well because he's mobile. You know what I'm saying?
He's 6'6".
And he's 6'6". He could play down in the post with Hartwell if he really had to. But now he'd probably be Hartwell would be in the 5. Taylor would be running the floor a little bit more, but that just happens.
I'd pull him out to about 18 feet.
You would.
and hit the jumper on him, Matt.
You would. There's no doubt. But I just think Arkansas is fun to watch. And I will tell you, John knows more about these guys than I do, but I'm telling you, I've heard some great stuff about Coach Pittman, and I pull for Coach Pittman. And honestly, I'm excited for Arkansas fans because I think in year 2 of the system, you're going to see the growth, as in week 2 of college football. The old cliche for college football, high school coaches, we get more growth in week 1 to 2 than any week of the year just because now everyone's got tape. We can see what we did poorly. We can work on more execution. And even if we played really well, we're going to be like, we're just good enough. We missed the block here. I don't care. We scored 55. We did 3 things wrong. And I think that's where Petrino is just money. And I think, it's an interesting game with Butch Jones. Is that game in Fayetteville or is that in Little Rock, John?
No, it's in Little Rock. War Memorial.
Little Rock, yeah.
Visit the zoo before the game or after.
And I have to make a comment about Rob's new nickname, Brenden, for me is going to be Karate Kid. There's no doubt about it. He is the Karate Kid from here on out. Rob Browne.
Totally agree.
Wax on, wax off.
I totally agree because there's so many fun things we can say with that.
Well, but it was so much fun. The long ride down I-85 to Montgomery. 65. I mean,
no. Side to side.
Mr. McCamey was incredible.
Miyagi.
He was an 8th degree black belt. Incredible.
Rob, could you do us and the viewers a favor and maybe one Thursday wear your entire karate get up?
It's called a gi
on the air.
Well, it's
I have a picture of it right here. This is Rob in college.
Hey, I got beat up so bad in those.
That's why you learned karate.
Yeah, it was incredible. It's relaxing though. It's kind of like a chill gummy that I took last night. I mean, I was like, the washing machine was screwing up.
Hey, man,
and all you goes, I didn't hear you going like the father on Christmas Story. Back to smack when the furnace would go out. I was like, no big deal. I love it.
Rob, you should lay off the gummies, man.
That's right.
Yeah.
Brenden, Brenden, by
I
the
was
way.
like, I'm going to send you the gummies. I'm like, Rob, I have a child.
Yes. Well, for you, adults only. But Brenden, I like what Brenden says, though, when he talks about his time in Colorado. And I like Max Howell is watching this show right now. And, he coached Deion Sanders at Florida State. Said he was the first guy in every meeting, sat on the front row, was never late. And there's a lot of things we don't know about Deion. But, man, I know one thing. He's brought a lot of eyeballs out there. But, guys, my sleeper in the ACC, Georgia Tech, went out there and got a 27-20 win. I mean, we're an SEC show, but we can't help but put our tentacles out around the country. Sun Belt, ACC. Guys, it's as wide open as I can ever remember of a college football season. And if you don't show up every week ready to play a full 60, you're going to get beat. In Alabama's got the second most talented roster behind Georgia, just ahead of Ohio State. You talk about Jeremiah Smith not being a factor. Credit Texas's defense. But you know what else? Ryan Williams, Alabama, 5 catches, 32 yards against Florida State.
Hey, Rob, here's one to watch this week. And this is a guy, again, that's familiar to you guys up there in the Memphis area. Kenny Dillingham and the Arizona State crowd will be going to Stark Vegas this weekend. And I saw some of Kenny's comments yesterday saying, we can't fly in there and we got to stay an hour and a half. The only place to stay within an hour and a half of Stark Vegas is a casino, and I'm not going to have my guys in a casino. So he's laying the groundwork, but it's going to be interesting to see. I watched a little bit of that Mississippi State Southern Miss game in Hattiesburg the other day. Mississippi State looked pretty good. So it's going to be interesting to see how that game plays out.
I literally told everybody about 3 weeks ago, Mississippi State is better than you think.
That's right.
Blake Shapen as a quarterback is good. He only had 4 games last year, got hurt. But I'm telling you, Jeff Levy, Matt Dean, I've got a basketball team here. Matt Dean, 6'3", Brenden, 6'4", John Hartwell, 6'7". I'll be the point guard.
KK.
We've never had a 7-foot guest, but we're working on that.
It's hard. It's hard to dribble a basketball when you're doing this, though.
Actually, we did have a 7'4" guest on the show one time. Mark Eaton, the former center for the Utah Jazz.
Really?
He was on our show, and sadly, he was killed last year on his bicycle. But he was a great guy. My friend Don Hudson introduced us on the international roundtable of great motivation speakers and sales speakers. But we got a tall lineup here. Tall question for Matt Dean. All right, you look in the SEC. Alabama, Arkansas. Stop me if I'm missing something. Alabama, Arkansas, Auburn, Florida, Georgia, Kentucky, LSU, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Missouri, Oklahoma, South Carolina, Tennessee, Texas, A&M, and Vanderbilt. We ain't talked about South Carolina, Matt. Lenora Sellers, how good. You know what Roman Harper said on the show? He goes, he's the guy that completes 30-yard passes downfield when he's on the way to the ground. Not many people can do that.
There was a stat I saw on Twix, to go with Brendan's terms. Nick Harbor, they had like the top 10 fastest running whatever plays this weekend. Nick Harbor was, I think, 23 miles an hour, the wide receiver from South Carolina. And then Lenora Sellers, guys, I mean, if you're an NFL scout, you are drooling over him. I think South Carolina is really good. And we kind of talked about they go under the radar, but not with me. I think they're really good. I think they're a team that right now I think AP got them 10th in the country. They're a playoff team right now, but it's only week 2. I don't know why I'm talking about playoffs, but I love them. Absolutely love them. And I'm going to go back to what we said about Dillingham. My son worked for Kenny at Oregon, and Kenny's a really good offensive mind, but man, he can get in that interview. The camera sometimes and the microphone get him in trouble. I like Mississippi State this week. I really do.
Look, those folks in Starkville, and John Hartwell, you know this, when they bowled in the stadium, Davis Wade Stadium, Scott Field in Starkville, Mississippi, the legendary voice, Jack Crystal, there's movement of the aisles here at Scott Field in Starkville, Mississippi. 58 years. The voice of the Mississippi State Bulldogs, Jack Crystal, went to Humes High School in Memphis. The American dream. His parents were Jewish immigrants from Lithuania, came here with the clothes on their back. When he retired at Mississippi State, his farewell speech was unreal. He goes, I have lived the American dream. Broadcasting Mississippi State athletics for 58 years is bigger than a dream come true. Goodbye, everyone. That is going to be an incredible atmosphere. And you're right about Kenny Dillingham. I want to ask you about Vanderbilt. Last year, guys, when they were playing Virginia Tech, remember they were winning and then they weren't, and everybody collectively said, here they go again, but they fought back and they won. That was the bell cow, the 30-year bond, the canary in the coal mine. They ended up 7-6, and they beat Georgia Tech in the Birmingham Bowl. Somebody tell me they go up to Blacksburg, Lane Stadium, enter Sandman, and get the win against Virginia Tech Saturday. Yes or no?
Possibly. I'm going to tell you, I thought Virginia Tech looked pretty good defensively against South Carolina.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie to you.
They did.
And I think that's if you're Virginia Tech, the last thing you want to do is go 0-2. I would give a slight edge to Virginia Tech, but it would not shock me when you have a quarterback like Diego who is tough and is going to will his team to situational football. I think Vanderbilt's now in conversations with games, even on the road, that they haven't been in a long time.
Yeah. John Hartwell.
I'll go with the Hokies at home.
All right, Brenden, got to ask you a question.
Vanderbilt.
Florida's got South Florida.
Vanderbilt.
Low down with Lauren Meadows Tuesday night. Had a guest on, a young reporter that covers the Bulls. This game, after Alex Golish at South Florida dismantled Boise State 34-7 last Thursday, what's the level of concern among the Gator Nation of 90,000 plus that packs the stadium regardless of opponent? Unbelievable Gator Nation fan base. Brenden estimates at 6.5 million.
I don't. You always tell me that I do that. I don't. I have like 1 point. I have no.
There's
idea.
a lot of them. Can I say there's a lot of them?
No clue. We're somewhere in there. Maybe more. Look, I think Boise State is Boise State. I think Florida temperature. Look, it's a lot of like I told you so. But like I said to this when Kalen DeBoer became Alabama's head coach, I said, look, be careful because this is a slippery slope that Florida just slipped down for many years. For a decade, Florida went down this path. And you want to catch it before it's too early, right? And or you want to make sure that you get it, don't wait too late. John Hartwell can attest to all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
Because it got crazy. You don't want to get in this space. I think Florida is finally, I think Billy's done an amazing job recruiting and figuring out that they had to go to the basics. I think Florida has had to go back to the, what they know best with recruiting, getting good talent in there, coaches. And I think Billy has restored that. So I think that you asked me what the temperature is of Gator Nation. Gator Nation is like, we're expecting to go to the playoffs and compete. That's what we're expecting to do. Gator Nation's already been there. They're over this shit. Excuse me. And they don't want to do it anymore. So Bama fan, be careful. Don't whine too hard. You might want to let Caleb DeBoer do his job a little bit and trust the process before you go running him out the door. Because you start playing this revolving coaching game, I'm going to tell you, it's going to bite you in the ass. And it's bit Florida in the ass early. And I think in the end, you just have to get everything going the right direction for a good amount of time and not feel paranoid you're going to run out the door. Well, I think Billy's got Gator Nation the right way. He's proven to even say, look, if Lagway goes down, we got another guy and we got another, he's starting to stack talent. And I think that's key when you start seeing that process. So I think USF should be no big deal in the swamp at 4:15 on Saturday. I'll be there. And I think it's going to be raucous. And I kind of expect the Bulls to get their ass kicked.
Yeah.
They should get their ass kicked. And when they do, then Florida can start looking down the road and saying, how are we going to do at LSU? And what are we going to do with this gauntlet that we got to run from there? Because right now, if you can't kick the crap out of the Bulls, you're going to have a long road ahead, especially at home, going on the road and trying to win some games. Especially
along the line of what Brendan's saying, guys, when it comes to making coaching changes, Phil Correa, one of the greatest investors, famously started the Pioneer Fund, one of the first mutual funds in the equity markets in America. He said, we don't ever sell a stock unless we have a better one to buy. We don't make a lot of money sitting in cash. Well, Auburn pushed Gus out, and that was I agreed with that. But the guy they brought in to replace him was basically a 2-year death penalty in effect, de facto, Brian Harsin. You better be careful, moving coaches around. And I love these people that aren't spending the money who love to spend other people's money. OPM, we got to fire that man. You're living in your parents' basement. Shut up, okay? Put a bag over your head and just go away. But you know what? People, once your mind expands from here up to here, it never reverts back to where it was. If you've eaten steak at Folks Folly or Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, it's different when you eat at CK's coffee shop at 3 a.m. I'm just saying there's a big difference. The SEC, I tell you, another program, Texas A&M, and hopefully Gary Harris will be with us in a minute. And A&M, Mike Elko in year 2. They were 7-1 last year, finished 8-4, 8-5. Matt Dean, how do they get out of this rut? They're on the side of the road. They can't get over the hump. Can Marcel Reed lead the Aggies to Atlanta?
I would say one of the things that Coach Elko has got to like is Marcel Reed, dual threat quarterback, because Mike Elko is going to put a very good defensive product on the field. Do
you see Gary Harris in there, Brendan? He said he's been in there for a few minutes, making sure we see him. Okay.
Looks like he's having some internet struggles. Let's try him out.
Okay.
Hey, Gary, are you there?
I'm here.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, your internet's been coming in and out, so we're just making sure.
Sorry about that. Gary, we've been bouncing all over the SEC. I apologize for that. That's on me. But I know it's been a calm week in Tuscaloosa. You've seen this before, and your talent is there and everything like that. But I want to hear what you have to say, because you've forgotten more than all of us know about what goes on in Alabama. And everybody knows it was different when Nick Saban was there. Now you got a new coach here. What do you think happens this week against ULM and here on out?
Well, I've never seen it like this, because this is the first time when Shula was here. Yeah, we had the internet, but we didn't have social media is now. You didn't have the instant reactions that you have now. You had some internet boards, you had tighter insider. So I've never seen it like this. This is by far the worst that I've ever seen, going back to, I've been here since Mike Post. So this is different. I mean, the reaction has been fast and furious. The criticism has been nonstop. And in fairness to Alabama fans, I will say this. The last time they saw their team on the field against Michigan, it was sloppy. It was a poor performance against a team that had a lot of, players that had opted out. And then Ryan Grubb comes back, and all you hear is great spring, great offseason, unbelievable work in the weight room, unbelievable fall camp, teams bought in, everybody's in alignment. And then you have to give the other team credit. I get that. But then you go to Florida State as a basically a 13.5, 14-point favorite, and you get whipped. And all of these things that you had heard, you did not see come to fruition on the field. And as you guys know me, I clear on everybody. I don't break down film and watch it like a coach. I'm not sitting here talking schematics and, cover to I don't do it like that. Can't, not even capable of it. But you can see effort. If the other one team was slower than the other, and it was just it was shocking to see Alabama play that poorly. And that's not to take anything away from the opponent. But when a team brings in 50 new players and 14 new starters, 2 new coordinators, new quarterback, and they handle you like that, I get it. I mean, I understand why fans are upset. I do. Now, is some of it extreme? Sure. It's one game. It's not a conference game. But the expectation based on, up against the results is, you were talking about the steakhouse coffee shop analogy. Well, I would say for Alabama, if you want to make that analogy, they were expecting Ruth's Chris, and they got, a $5 breakfast steak at a diner. I mean, the expectation versus the result were nowhere the same. So do you want to call it panic? Do you want to call it overreaction? Sure. All those things apply. It's everywhere. It's at every school. I always say, you've heard me say it, for some fan bases, the highlight of the season is the preseason. I never thought we'd be talking about Alabama in those terms, and we may not be before it's all said and done. But right now, there's a lot of mistrust of this coaching staff. There's a lot of, fans that are, I guess, feeling like they bought they were sold a bill of goods, and it didn't happen. So we'll see. No offense to John, his former school, I do think Alabama will roll Saturday night against Monroe. I just think I don't know if humiliated is the right term, but embarrassed. They know what's being said about them. They know the scrutiny they're under. The rosters here, these are 2 different level of rosters. If you can't get yourself ready to play at home on Saturday night and be impressive against a lower, a less rostered, type team than you're going to see going forward, then you really got some issues. So I think at least for Saturday night, they'll get it right. I think they'll beat Wisconsin, and then they'll go to Georgia. And I think a lot of fans will say, hey, well, let's see what happens here. And if they lose that game and they're 2-2 and they're 0-1 to start the SEC, I think we'll be right back where we're at now.
Yeah. Well, interesting thing, Alabama in 2000, I remember I was at a big dove hunt watching them play UCLA. Alabama was number 3 in the country. Deshaun Foster had a field day. He's now the coach at UCLA. That season, that game 1 portended what happened throughout the season. It was not good. You still got time to turn it around. Ty Simpson, what'd you think about his performance? He seemed like he was given a full 60 the entire game. But Florida State, Tommy Castellanos came from Boston College. They just came out, as they say down in LA, with his hair on fire. And they said they seemed like they wanted to prove something. And Alabama, took it down that first drive, 7-0. Ryan Williams, the players need to be called out too. Ryan had 5 catches for 32 yards. So there's a lot of blame to go around.
Oh, the players getting called out. Made no mistake. Don't think it's just Yeah, Castellona said, they don't have Nick Saban to save them, and I don't think they could stop me. And Alabama said, well, all disrespect will be addressed. Well, Castellanos 1, Alabama 0. I mean, he went out and backed it up. And as far as Ty Simpson is concerned, I thought he played hard in the game, as you said, Rob. I mean, when you look at Alabama's players, again, I don't grade them or anything like that, but there weren't a lot of really good performances. But I thought that, Jeremy Bernard obviously played great, the senior wide receiver. I thought Ty played better than most. I thought, like you said, he played hard. I thought his experience, not in terms of, being a fourth-year junior, but in terms of playing in the game showed. I mean, there's no saying with quarterbacks, if you've got green grass, take it. When you get outside the pocket, if you can run for a first down rather than throw for a first down. And there were times he was on the run. I thought he could just pulled it down, and instead he tried to throw it under, duress or, across his body, and he, threw it at the feet of guys. So he can play better, but he played hard. There's no doubt about it. And he fought, and he gave a maximum effort. But I do think, his numbers weren't bad, but, he threw it 43 times and they ran the ball 29 times. And as you mentioned, I think a lot of fans are scratching their head over that first drive. When you possess the ball for 8.5 minutes, you go 80 whatever yards and you run the ball. Kevin Riley, the kid out of Tuscaloosa County High, had a terrific drive. And then you wind up running the ball 29 times for, what was it, 82 yards, something like that?
87, yeah.
Yeah, 87. And I think you were behind in the game once you got, but you never were so far behind that you had to go away from the run 100%. So fans are very unhappy with everything from the preparation to the coaching in the game to the effort by the players. I mean, as you said, there's plenty of blame to go around. And when you look at Kane Womack, the heat that he's taken, and I say rightfully so, man. I mean, you pre-snap, they're walking up to the line of scrimmage, and then they're backing off the line of scrimmage, and they're looking at the sideline. And we heard so much about that secondary, how talented they were, and they failed to make plays. The defensive line got blocked, didn't get off blocks, and that one game, and again, they got 11 more to go. That one game was a very poor performance. And that's not to take anything away from Florida State. I think Florida State's got a good team. I think they're proof that in the portal era, you can retool your team from one season to next. We've talked about that. And last week I said, I hadn't told you guys, I thought it was going to be a tough game. I know Matt and I both did. We both said, listen, this is not going to be the game. But I did think Alabama would win the game. So it is what it is. Me, I'm not trying to stir. I don't criticize just for the sake of criticizing. But, I mean, criticism was warranted this week based on the expectations, many of those expectations being created by those players and coaches that said all off season that they, people would ask me, "What do you think Alabama's going to be good?" I would say they think they're going to be good. That was the message coming out of that building. So to go out there and lay an egg like that, it was incredibly disappointing.
So you don't think Roll Tide Willie will be invited back to address the team at practice and the ice cream truck coming back?
Well, all that stuff, again, it's like you said, if you win games, nobody cares about it.
Yeah.
I never was a fan of any of that stuff.
I wasn't either.
Not my style. I said it at the time. Nothing against Roll Tide Willie. Nothing, to me, win or lose, I don't like gimmicks, I agree. But I would think now that's the kind of thing that when you're winning, it's fun and, oh, man. But when you start, if you don't win, all of that stuff gets brought up, and people all of a sudden, the people that were saying, "Oh, I think it's great that Roll Tide Willie's out there at practice. I think it's great that they're, they have ice creams after trucks after practice." As soon as you don't get the results, then people, especially at a school like Alabama, I said it's everywhere, but I think it's magnified here. And you guys know what I'm talking about. I'm not saying there aren't other fan bases maybe that have some fans that say, "Hey, but most of the people around the country are reveling in this. Most other fan bases, both in the SEC and Big Ten, ACC, they're all piling on Alabama because we talked about before. Alabama's like the Yankees. They're like the Cowboys. They have incredible, huge fan base around the country, but people that aren't their fans want to see them lose. So that's another thing that comes with it. If you can't stand the heat, go play somewhere else. You brought this on yourself, and now you got to deal with the fallout. Yeah,
and John Hartwell, Alabama, we know, is like a 6-foot timber rattler. We know that living in the South. Don't pick it up by the tail. They're always going to be dangerous. And Alabama, by the way, is the only school in the world that I know of that has an Alabama souvenir store in Old Jerusalem? I digress. John Hartwell, jump into this question because
this goes back to something we talked about before Gary got on, and the question we bounced around Gary, and I think we were all in a consensus that we don't think, whether it's Alabama or anywhere else, that Coach Saban doesn't come back. But I will say this, Caitlin DeBoer is dealing with the situation right now, and there are other coaches dealing with this too, that even more so this year than any of the previous 2 or 3 years where NIL has been in play, is although they are not professionals, you've got to find a way as a coach to say, hey, it's got to hurt you when you lose. I don't care if you've got 750,000 or $1 million or whatever you're getting in NIL. You got your ass handed to you. What are you going to do to get up off the ground? And you have that, again, money in the bank, and you can go buy what you want to, but you're here playing football for Alabama. And what are you going to do as a coach to bring that unit together, to have pride in what you're doing? Because I will say this, and I don't think there'd be much argument. There were times, in that game against Florida State, they looked discombobulated on both sides of the ball. So what are you going to do as a coach to bring them back together? And I agree with you. ULM won in Tuscaloosa in Saban's first year. A lot of people, I know Alabama people remember that, and ULM people do, but a lot of people don't remember that. So they're going to put that up on the bulletin board from the 2007 season. And I do think, I think ULM is going to be the victim in this game of a mad Alabama group coming out to play and wearing them out in that game. But that's part of the byproduct of NIL, and even more so this year than in previous years, because the stakes have risen. The amount of money that these kids are getting, and hey, you got to put that to the side and figure out what you can do to have the team come together, have the chemistry come together. And regardless of how much money you've got in your bank account, getting your ass kicked should not be an option. It should upset you.
Can I follow up on that, Rob? Because
Yeah.
John's 100% right, and he knows it from the inside out, as an athletics director. A couple of points. First of all, I want to say this. I think Brian Vincent's an excellent coach, and I think their team will be prepared. And I think they've got some good football players. But I'm talking about in terms of roster disparity. And with what happened to Alabama, because I'm agreeing 100% with what John said. If you got some pride in performance, if this means something to you, and you're at home against a roster that can't match up to yours, you should be able to have an easy win. And that doesn't mean that the other team won't be prepared to play and that they don't have some good players. If you look up in the third quarter, and it's midway through the third quarter, it's 20-10. That's a red flag to me there too. And to follow up on John's point, I think he's 100% right. Coaching is so much more difficult today because players don't look at coaches the way that they looked at coaches when we were growing up. When we were in high school, or, I didn't play college sports, but you looked at the coach as the authority figure. The coach said, do it. You did it. And if you questioned it, you were the one that got in trouble. You were the one that had to run extra laps, or in some cases, that helped the team. Now players can question. And a lot of times it's the coach that's in there answering questions from his AD as to why it's that way. But you still have to be able to coach players. And you still have to, the good coaches, I think, will get that message across that they're still in charge. And just because of, like John said, you got, I won't give a name, but a kid that's living in a 7-figure neighborhood here making a couple $1 million a year. It's not supposed to be that way. I don't care what anybody says. That's not the design of college athletics, but it is. Yeah. But if you can't reach those guys and get them to play and practice the way you need them to play, then I don't know what you're doing coaching. You're going to have a hard time, doing it correctly. So, and that also answers to the way that Alabama builds its program. You're going to see more schools, I think, go to the Florida State model. I think there'll be more schools that will recruit. But think about a recruiting class. You got to hold it together. You got to sign it. You got to get it in. You got to develop, and you got to keep it. Well, whereas if you have your portal money set aside, and every year you could go, instead of having a high school freshman that's talented, you could go find a 3-year starter somewhere else. That's what Florida State did with their offensive line. That's what they did with their quarterback. So that's another question about roster building in the future. I think you'll see more schools that just say, hey, we're going to sign some high school kids, certainly, but we're more than not going to just reshape our roster following each season.
Yeah, Matt.
Yeah, I've been in this situation in basketball where I've taken a team on the road and we've got ambushed. And I've been the situation with Florida State coming off a tough year, the first game where we surprised some people. And I will tell you this, it's an incredible teaching moment for Coach DeBoer. I think everyone has his attention now. If they didn't have it before, they certainly need to have it now. And I just want to tell you how hard all the moons align. Gary just mentioned the 50 additions and the roster changes, but you got a quarterback that was in sync with the offensive coordinator and one that loved playing Alabama. Let's be honest about this. Malzahn was chomping at the bit. He had a dual threat guy, and he was like, we're gonna figure them out. And the only confusion I have, Gary, is after that first drive, I'm like, they're going to dominate this football game. And I was going back and forth. I had the quad box on. My Oregon Ducks were on, so I got to be honest, I didn't watch every minute of that football game. But I thought they would run it for a better clip and be able to move the chains more as the game progressed. That was my confusion, which obviously if you do that, it sets up opportunities for Ryan Williams as well. Yeah. So that was my confusion, and I think they'll get some things fixed. But some things, like effort level has to be synonymous for the core of your football team. It has to go across every position group, special teams, offense, defense, and that needs to be addressed as well. If you felt like as head coach, if you're watching tape and you saw some guys that you didn't think were doing their best, you got to figure out if those twos are ready to come play, in my opinion. You know
what's puzzling about that, and then I got to go. Most of the time, the way it's been my experience, whether playing high school sports or certainly covering sports at college and in professional level, is you usually worry about guys practicing hard. Can you get them to practice hard? Can you get them doing the weight room? Yep. All we've heard all summer here is, man, this team works harder than any team we've had. Working the weight room, practicing. Okay, so and then you see guys loafing on the field. It doesn't equate. I mean, even guys that don't want to practice usually play hard in the game. I mean, you do. So you're going to tell me when nobody's watching, you're in there at 5 a.m, you're giving maximum effort, you're on the practice field when it's 100 degrees, and then you get in the game and you don't play hard? Yeah, that's not equate. That's why I think people are just shocked at what they saw.
It is. Gary, I know you got to go. Awesome stuff. You're right. When Alabama loses, it's epic, and I don't count them out, but it doesn't look good, the effort part of it. You're right. Gary Harris, Tide 100.9.
Thanks for being here, Gary.
Thank you so much. John, I know you got to go to a meeting. Thank you. John's got basketball practice. Thank you so much. Look,
thanks, guys.
You bet.
Have a good week. See you next week.
Take care, John.
You too. Let me say something real quick, Matt, before we go. We talked about Landers Ford earlier. They're open every day of the week except Sunday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Poplar and Houston Levy, where Collierville and Germantown come together. Their service department open every day, 7 a.m., 7 p.m., provide round-trip transportation, cars, trucks, SUVs. Look, it's anxiety city when you're going to look for a new car or truck. You know that, Matt. We all do. Just go ask for Brad Bellamy, the GM. He's calming, like a priest. He'll calm you down. He'll do everything in his power to get you in the vehicle. LandersFordMemphis.com. Love the people out there. Hewlett and Dunn, boot and clothing company right down the street on the historic square in Collierville, Tennessee. Let me just say this about Hewlett and Dunn. Every day right now, box loads of new stuff coming in. Filson, Barber, STS, Pendleton, Schaefer, Devil Dog Jeans, Ariat, Wrangler, over 7,000 pairs of men's, women's, and kids' size boots. They've got it all. J.M. Huffman, Raven Carpenter, Charles Hall, his wife Laura Hall, Lydia. They got everybody out there coming in. They will take care of you. Great looking clothing, everything you're looking for. And Rumble Boxing, Union and McLean. How you fight is how you live. And look, Lights Out Gummies. Order those. You can do it easily. Take advantage of that Lights Out Gummies, 25% off. Use coupon code at checkout. Sidelines. They've got energy, chill, and lights out. Pro Athletes Hemp Association. Love these people. Hey, great show today. We were all over the place. Let me say this. Most often, we're going to see the face of Christ in the least among us. You know what that means? People who are struggling are struggling. Find extra time in your day to do kind things for other people. For executive producer Brenden Martin, thank you so much. Share the show. We'll be back on, but come to this channel, the Hour of Power, nonstop SEC coverage. See you tomorrow.
Good night, John Boy.